some subscribers were asking for another Ronda video, so here goes. I had a viral video a little while ago about Ronda Rousey's knockout loss to Holly Holm. It was a cautionary tale that a lot can be learned from. And now, here we are again. Unfortunately, things did not get any better for Ronda. In fact, things kind of went from bad to worse. For those familiar with some of my other videos, you know I tend to have a good spider sense, so to speak, for when the media is leading people against reality. And what I was seeing the last time around was a girl walking into a media trap. The fame and acclamation Rousey was getting was laid on a little too thick and a little too soon. I made a point that she definitely made a splash in her sport, but the praise was getting beyond irrational. And of course, fanboys and girls couldn't hear any of it. She was being celebrated and portrayed as invincible, with no other woman able to match her. That was a media creation, so she was repeatedly being compared and matched up against male fighters. The whole thing was preposterous. And then the ESPYs, she was given Athlete of the Year and Fighter of the Year awards above two veteran legends during a time that both were nearing the end of their long, illustrious careers. When the media indoctrinates people, it's hard to tell anyone otherwise. Here's what happened. Ronda is an accomplished athlete, but the UFC women's division was in formation. She was looking good and she had the look and the resume, so they just kind of made her champ. Then the media defined her greatness, and things quickly got carried away. But one of the biggest victims of this media brainwashing was Ronda Rousey herself. If Ronda understood that there were lots of fighters that could toss her a beating, she probably would have conducted herself a little differently. Instead, Ronda made arrogant claims against male and female fighters, and in different fighting disciplines. She taunted with her awards and made inappropriate digs at Floyd Mayweather, who usually chose not to respond, so the attacks were unwarranted. The media was definitely using her for the show and egging some of it on. And finally, she chose not to be very sportsmanlike and disrespected Holly Holm even up to the very second they were about to bang it out. And then, to everyone's surprise, Holly Holm gave Ronda Rousey the business in a completely one-sided pummeling. It all came crashing down. With such a meteoric rise and fall, it was a cautionary tale for sure. Even though in the last video I wished Ronda the best and was looking forward to a possible comeback, all the signs pointed toward that not being likely. And now, sure enough, here we are. Losing is gonna happen. But the main thing that I and many fight fans found problematic was the way she was dealing with the loss. It was disturbing. This is not how fighters react at all.
Honestly, my thought, I was in the medical room, and I was down in the corner. I was sitting in the corner, and I was like, what am I anymore if I'm not this? And I was literally sitting there and thinking about killing myself, and that exact second I'm like, I'm nothing. I'm like, what do I do anymore? And no one gives a shit about me anymore without this. And then, to be honest, I looked up and I saw my man, Travis, was standing there, and I was looked up at him, and I was just like, I need to have his babies. I need to stay alive.
For most, you're going to win some and maybe lose some, but you come back. This is the game you're in. What she was showing us was not the demeanor of a champion. She was showing the demeanor of someone who perhaps needed time off and maybe mental health help. And I'm not digging at her, I'm telling the truth. I'll go a step further. I think this situation was the first of its kind. This is a psychological paradigm. I don't think Ronda was prepared for that kind of rise and fall, and had a hard time adjusting to being humbled and outclassed the way she was, and still hold her head up high. This is a person who may have been one of the biggest victims of her own media hype in MMA and sports history. It's not as much of a wipeout, but this is somewhat reminiscent of Mike Tyson. Tyson was Kid Dynamite, knocking everyone out in seconds. He very quickly became a hyped up media sensation. And at some point, everyone grew comfortable believing him to be invincible and that everything he hit fell down. And so he unwittingly became a one-trick pony without realizing it. Even though he was also a good boxer with excellent defensive skills and a dangerous combination of both speed and power, he was soon taken out of his game. Being such a dynamic puncher, he wasn't pressed to develop other skills or rely on other strategies in later rounds. For a while, no one really took him there. Then, after Customado died and after all the money came in, he started not to train as hard, started spending his money in womanizing, and then wasn't prepared when fighters started to stand up to him and take it to the distance. Buster Douglas being the first to do it. Yeah, they cheated a bit, most likely for gambling purposes, allowing Douglas to recover, but still, Tyson should not have been in the trouble he was in with Douglas in the first place. It should have been light work. He was finally beaten and his invincibility image shattered. And then he was thrown in jail. The bad side of fame and fortune started to rock his world. Psychologically, he was beginning to tap out. Career and legacy-wise, it still wasn't as bad as Rousey's current situation, because coming out of jail, Tyson still boxed his way back to quickly being the #1 contender in the world, and a champion again. After the Douglas loss and a jail stint, he came out and won his next 8 fights, 6 of them by knockout, and picked up the WC and WA titles from Frank Bruno and Bruce Seldon. He would always still be able to beat most of the professional field with his power alone, but when it came to elite level Hall of Famers, with the will of champions ready to stand up to him and take it the distance, psychologically he didn't have much left. Evander Holyfield and Lennox Lewis took him to the later rounds and worked him. That confidence and that fire in his eyes was gone way before he walked in the ring with them. And the era of Iron Mike Tyson was done. Ronda Rousey's face reminded me of what I saw when Tyson was no longer the baddest man on the planet. And he knew it. She didn't have that champion's glow, and she didn't have the look of a fighter that had the spirit in her to step up and go to war. She had the look of someone who was trying to show up, but deep down subconsciously knew it was over. Another way Ronda's plight compares to Tyson's is that their camps and handlers probably knew the light was out and that they were not ready. With Tyson, the man had been in jail. He had manifested multiple disturbing public outbursts. And no, he probably wasn't ready to be back in the ring fighting against legends. It's not just physical war. It's mostly psychological war, and you have to be present. He probably should have spent more time getting psychological help before those big fights. But when the money is too great and your name is still worth cash for a few more fights, with the right promotion, they'll get you back in there, ready or not. They don't care. They knew Ronda was a hyped up media cash cow that they were just about done with, and they were sending her to a beating. Regardless, Ronda had no business walking into the octagon against Nunes. On any given day, Nunes would pound Ronda senseless. Only a mentally healthy Rousey with perhaps a few tune-up fights under her belt first had a chance to make it interesting. Nunes should not have been Ronda's first fight back after the spectacle we saw. She was lying to herself, coming back from a layoff and humiliation right into another dangerous championship fight. And because of all the hype, there's too many questions that need to be answered. A lot of people have been saying McGregor is super hyped up too, but I'm not worried about McGregor. I'm not being a fanboy, but he looks and talks like a fighter. He's got the swag and confidence, and he shows up. The Diaz fight didn't break him at all, and regardless what people think of the outcome of the second fight, he wanted the fight and jumped right back in. And he's still talking his talk. He takes his losses like a champ and gets back in there. That's what champions and people mentally equipped to fight do. Love him or hate him, he's showing a warrior's spirit and he's ready to fight. So what is the verdict on Ronda Rousey? And can she come back? Well, sure she can. Anyone can come back if they really want to. Ronda could even shock the world and come back in maybe 5 years or so to a championship win after figuring some things out. Rousey would have to change a lot of things first though. She lost her confidence, and because she no longer possesses that power of belief, right now she doesn't have the will to dig deep and figure something out against the odds. That's how Miesha Tate was able to beat Holly Holm. On any other given day, Holm beats Tate hands down. But Tate didn't just accept that. She fought her like a bulldog to the end and ended up pulling off the upset, choking her out, after taking momentary punishment. That's when someone is present and ready to fight, win, lose, or draw. But let's be honest, Rousey coming back doesn't look good and it doesn't look likely. You shake off your losses and you either call it a day when the best days are behind you, or you come back when you're sure and when you're ready. There is no in between, and there is no 1 foot in, 1 foot out commitment. No 360 behavior, hiding from the media, or display of mental health issues. And you have to stand up against your biggest opponent, which is yourself. There's also a lot of poetic irony to Ronda's story too, in that she partly became a reason for her own exit. Through a lot of the fanfare she helped create, the women's division began to get a lot of focus, and very soon, better fighters stepped in to snatch the glory she couldn't hold on to for long. I still give Ronda lots and lots of credit. International fame is not an easy burden to bear, and I wish her a good transition into whatever it is she decides to do. So, can she come back? Or is this once decorated superstar only bound to lose to fiercer competition on the world stage in a shutout again? Only time will tell. Regardless, all of us should be conscious of the things we do and say and the legacy we leave behind. By the looks of it, it seems that for now, Ronda Rousey's cautionary tale is over.